Good, beautiful Sunday, everyone. Today is May 15th, and it's 3 p.m. We're now on our 91st episode of the HR Cafe, Usapang Buhay, Trabaho, Iba Pa. My name is Coach Darwin Rivers, and I'm with Mentor Tina Coang, and we will be providing you with another value-adding program for today. And our program for today actually is very important because it tackles about professionalism in times of crisis. Our guest speaker is no other than seasoned HR uh, professional Miss Joseline Alosbanos. You know what, professionalism, there's a lot of definition of these, but I just like to share with you that we've decided that this particular topic is very timely, especially that we've over the past few years and months, we have undergone a lot of crisis. We've gone through the COVID pandemic. There's an ongoing war. Prices of commodities are rising, and we just recently been into an election, no? And there's a lot of clashes. Of ideas and philosophies that is going on, and how can we maintain as HR professionals, as people leaders, our professionalism? How we'll be able to act professionally when people or when we are faced with challenging situations or challenging people. So that's our topic for today. So we invite you all to please stay tuned for because in the next few minutes we'll start our program. We welcome you to the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa. We are an online talk show program aired every Sunday, 3 p.m., and this is sponsored by the Philippines HR Group. My name is Coach Darwin Rivers. I'm the president and founder of the Philippines HR Group. I'm a certified life coach, a public speaker, motivational speaker, and HR consultant. I'm also the vice president for global HR operations of a BPO company. Today, joining me is, as I mentioned, Mentor Tina Coang, one of our HR Cafe servers. Mentor Tina is an operations and HR leader with broad local and overseas experience. She's a general manager for a retail company and best known on her online content, tinaandmanila.com. Hi, Mentor Tina. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to everyone. Welcome to the HR Cafe. I can see that there's a lot of people saying hi already in our show. We have Joseph Navales Placer. Tinatanong po niyo kung may e-certificate. We only provide this as a free service, so there's no e-certificate. But I hope that you learn a lot during our show. There's also Marlon Nagimba and Bong Tuplano who greets everyone happy Sunday. We also hope that those who are watching will also leave their name, their company name, and where they're from in the Philippines so we can give them a shout out on the show. Sir June is intently listening from Bacoor. So welcome, Sir June Espacio. And we hope one day to have you as a special guest at the
Yes,
HR
sir.
Cafe. Diba? Tar?
Yes. So for all of you guys who have just tuned in, we welcome you. And let's enter the HR Cafe. Here at our program, we provide timely news and updates. We impart knowledge and experience that are value adding and beneficial to our audience. We discuss problems, issues, and challenges and provide answers and resolutions through our guest resource. We also discuss new technologies, tools, and processes, as well as industry's best practice, because we would like you to be able to have an understanding and to be updated on what are the best tools and best practices that is going on right now globally. We're also a virtual job board. So if there are any job related announcement, if you have any openings in your company, please post it at the comment section and we'll be happy to share it to our audience. End of day, we would like to bridge understanding between employers and employees and provide inspiration and motivation as well as factual information to our audience. Welcome to the HR Cafe. We start our program with our wow quote for the week. And this particular quote is coming from Julius Irving. According to Julius Irving, being a professional is doing the things you love to do on the days you don't feel like doing them. Let me just repeat that. Being a professional is doing the things that you love to do on days you don't feel like doing them. This is a quote from Julius Irving that describes what a professional is. Mga kababayan, mga nanonood ng HR Cafe, please share to us how is this particular wow quote for the week resonates to you. How do you understand this wow quote for the week? Share it to us and we'll be happy to share it to our audience. Let's start with you, Mentor Tina.
I'm actually very curious what our audience will comment about this wow quote of the week because I actually want to read what they have to say. Okay? Sa akin lang, I've noticed that a lot of employers pay premium for reliability. Okay? For example, when I recruit and when I hire, a lot of people say, "Oh, do you recruit for competency? Do you recruit for attitude?" But one of the factors that people forget when recruiting is when these people actually reliably show up when the company needs them, and to actually stand strong even if everything is already exploding all around them.
Correct.
The best paid HR practitioners are those that are very professional, ergo very reliable in the eyes of their employer. Kasi usually, pag may crisis, for example, may accident, may fire, may lockdown, may pandemic, totoo talaga, it's very natural for any employee to be the first to be out of the door. Lagi-lagi basta kapag may basta may nangyaring bad news, makikita mo talaga sino yung loyal kasi at saka sinong hindi kasi yung hindi masyadong loyal, sila yung talagang nauunang mag-resign, mag-abandon ship, sila pa yung mag-aagawan para umalis. Yung pero the problem kasi is when you are an HR officer and you're managing a lot of employees, hindi pwede ang HR talaga ang mauna sa pag-a-abandon ship. Because kung wala yung HR, sinong matitira to coordinate and to navigate the company in dangerous waters during critical times of need? Hindi po pwede kasi usually natural sa atin pag wala na yung kunyari tapos na yung fire, tapos na yung lockdown, saka lang tayo babalik and say, "Boss, ano po bang kailangan mo?" And that's very inauthentic because companies and your employee and employers need you at critical times talaga.
Correct.
Dapat, pag on the heat of the moment, sumasabog na lahat, merong fire, that's the time when you actually have to show up. Pag tapos na yung crisis, hindi ka na masyadong kailangan ng tao. And I think the best paid HR practitioners are those that are known to perform very, very well in times of crisis. Same with companies. The best companies are those that perform very well in times of crisis. Na kapag kunyari, lalong may sakuna, lalong may nangyari, lalo silang mas nagiging united, mas naging strong. And we can see a lot of these companies exist after the pandemic. Okay, so for me, 'di ba? Very important if you really want to build a career in HR, start building a reputation of being professional. Regardless of good days and bad days. Because a lot of people think na, oh, pag good days, yun lang talaga yung chance na para ma-boost up yung career ko. But the biggest boost up of careers of the best paying HRs usually happen after a crisis because tatanungin sa'yo ng recruiter mo, anong ginawa mo dati? And because you can tell the story on how you navigated the company and the workers to actually make the crisis neutral, that is something that the companies really pay a premium for. And for that,
Agree.
I'd like to read yung sinabi ni Ma'am Pia, Temporal Roa. Agree with reliability, consistency, and work under pressure and loyalty. Maricel Bernardo Aragon says professionalism requires passion for the work you do. And the passion not to run away from your problems when it hits you. Coach Darwin, ito, marami ka talaga na experience. Being a
Well,
professional, go.
for me, professionalism reflects two core values of
Mm.
not only an HR professional but also basically a people leader. And you've already mentioned it, Tina, dependability and integrity. dependability in times of crisis, integrity because you do things even if no one is looking at you or no one is supervising you. I totally agree that when you say being a professional, you are a person that rise above challenges, rise above difficulties. You know what? I would like to recall this specific situation. Years ago, Ondoy,
Mm.
Ondoy happened kasi prior payroll. So when the whole NCR was flooded, a lot of people died, a lot of people were stranded, a lot of HR professionals needed to go to work riding bangkas, kahit nabasa sila, kahit na nawalan sila ng bahay, kahit na namatayan sila, because they need to make sure that payroll will be on time. And that
Mm.
has happened, proven a lot of things. Even in the midst of the pandemic, when there was a shutdown, nakita natin to, there was a shutdown at lahat hindi na pumapasok sa office, but HR professionals or people leaders had to go to the office and make sure that everything is still running smoothly because you cannot support employees' needs if the company is not running, right? So basically, being a professional is very important kasi it speaks a lot of your maturity, not only as an employee but as a person. Again, it reflects two core values: being dependable in times of crisis and having the integrity to do things that is right. So that's my take on this.
Mm. Yeah, we
And
also
any
have,
any other comment for that wow quote for the
yes,
week?
HR practitioners should have a high level of credibility, integrity, and trustworthiness. And I'd like to comment, I remember nga last 2020 during the lockdown, it was, I think, Easter holiday as well. May konting ano
Mm-mm.
yata nun eh. And I remember that Dole came out with Dole Camp. And I was very surprised din na our Department of Labor and Employment were responding during the Easter weekend.
Mm-mm.
Kasi 'di ba at that time they felt talaga the 5,000 was very valuable to other people. So
Correct.
there is still hope. There's still hope that our government has heart as well. May nagtatanong, Coach Darwin, tanong ni Chelmy, is there a difference on being professional and being mature?
Wow, being professional and being mature. If there's a difference, I think there is for me. Kasi again, when you say being professional, sabi nga dito sa quote, it's doing things that you need to do even if you don't like doing it. Kasi being mature naman kasi is being you can be mature by knowing your priorities in life. And sometimes the in the level of prioritization, there are a lot of people, and this is but normal. There's a lot of people that their work is not really a priority for them. Siyempre, the priority is family, self-family, di ba? But we have to think also that the things that we do affects people.
Mm.
So I really have a high respect for people leaders and professionals who are not only mature that they know that they know what are the things that it's important to them, but nevertheless still make sure that they're professional by making sure that they are able to address what's important because I know that people depends on them. So
Ako,
that's my take.
sa akin, you don't have to be mature to be professional.
Correct.
But all people who are professionals are matured.
I'm mature.
Are matured. Ulitin ko ha. Kasi a lot of people think na professionalism comes with age. But sa totoo lang,
Yeah.
even
Mm-mm.
fresh graduates can act in a very professional manner. And there are
Mm-mm.
senior executives or senior bosses that are not professional.
Are not and also not
Pero
mature.
'di ba? 'Di ba? Hindi 'yan sa age. Pero if you are matured, if you are professional, you act maturely.
Agree,
So iba-iba
agree.
yung wordplay, 'di ba? So
Correct,
lahat if
correct,
you are a professional, people will see you as mature even if ilang taon ka lang. So
correct.
even children can act maturely. Okay? But not all people are mature. Yun na yung ano
Agree.
natin. And
Agree.
with that, I'd like to go ahead, Coach Dar.
I just want to add this. I would like I like to there's this particular motto that we have when I
Mm.
was starting at work, and this particular motto was shared to us by my people leader, and he told us that kahit na gaano kalaki yung problema mo sa buhay, kasi tao tayo eh. Ang
Mm.
tao nagkakaproblema, nagkakaroon ng challenges, nagkakaroon ng mga trials. Pero kahit gaano kalaki ng problema mo, kahit gaano kabigat yung pakiramdam mo, iiwan mo lahat ng problema mo sa pintuan ng opisina. Hindi mo siya dapat dinadala sa opisina kasi sa opisina may mga taong dumidepende sa'yo, lalo na sa role mo as an HR professional. So it stuck, that particular learning stuck to me and stuck to my friends that minsan talaga, di ba Tina, minsan we woke up na at the wrong side of the bed na parang ang hirap-hirap
Mm.
kumilos or
Mm.
kaya nanggaling ka lang sa you're facing a lot of challenges, you're not well and whatnot. You're being a mortal. Your body is reminding you that you're still mortal, but you know for yourself that there are things that you need to do because people depends on you, and if you're not able to do those things, the company and the people that relies on you will be affected.
Okay?
So, any other addition from our guests, or
Yeah,
not
just
from our
a
guests, but from
greeting
our
from
greetings.
Arlene Santiago, who greets us good afternoon. Fai Tantao greets us. Coach Darwin and Coach Tina. Eda Abellano is saying hello from Waterfront Airport Hotel and Casino in Mactan,
Wow.
Cebu. Joby Lynn Santos is saying good rainy afternoon from QC. Sally Ulanday. And Pia Temporal Rice says good afternoon as well.
Okay, so before we go to our HR question for the week, reminding everyone, let's please make sure, sabi nga ni Mentor Tina, we can be mature and we must be professional always as a people leader, as an HR person. Now, for the HR question for the week, naku, napakadaming katanungan nito since last week, no, Mentor Tina? Should
Kahapon.
employers, di ba, kumlakapon, should employers increase the salaries of employees who are already getting above minimum wage, given that there's a pending increase for those who are getting minimum? So, as you know, there is a announcement from Dole that there will be additional compensation for those who are on minimum wage earners. So, marami yung mga employees nagtatanong, teka muna, kung yung minimum wage ay tinaasan ng sweldo, papaano naman kami? Dapat tataas din ang sweldo namin. Automatic ba ito na pag tumaas ang minimum wage earners, kailangan lahat ng employee sa kumpanya ay kailangan ding taasan? What's your take on this?
Hmm. Kahapon lumabas ang napakagandang balita na tinaasan na po ng 33 pesos ang dagdag ng minimum wage sa mga manggagawa sa Metro Manila. This will be in force 15 days later, which is around June 1, 2022.
One.
Hindi agad-agad yan 15 days later. So ang dami naming nakitang all of a sudden our post in the PHRG group, I think I had to look through more than 500 questions all asking exactly this question, which is, kailangan bang taasan ng employers ang sahod ng mga employees who are already getting above minimum wage? Let's do the math. Dati po for NCR, it's 537. Tinaasan po nila ng 33 pesos, ngayon 570. So dati ang minimum wage is 12,500 pesos more or less, right? Ngayon, it will be 14,820, almost 15,000 per person, base wages lang. Should the employers increase, we leave that to the employer. Okay? Because legally, there is nothing that would mandate the employer to increase your wages if you are already getting above the minimum wage. Walang masyadong pakialam si DOLE unless there is a CBA, like a collective bargaining agreement or under your contract, that this would be so. Pero pag wala pong kasulatan or agreement between the two of you, DOLE only cares about the minimum wage, that lahat ng mga tao mo is getting minimum or above minimum. Hindi pwedeng bababa ng below minimum. But given this, you have to be very sensitive. Kasi for example, dati kasi ang minimum wage 12.5. Tapos yung, let's assume your office staff, you're paying 15,000. Okay? So dati may premium siya ng 2,500 from the minimum wage. Ang tanong, ngayon ang minimum wage is at 15,000 na. Kung hindi mo tinaasan yung 15,000 mo dati na tao, magsi-stay pa rin ba yung tao na yun or baka maghanap siya ng trabaho sa iba? So a lot of HR practitioners are saying while you are not mandated to increase, you might have to be a little bit more sensitive to parang make sure talaga that the people who used to earn above minimum before would not take it against you if you do not increase their wages. How much to increase their wage? I don't know. I leave it up to you. Pero just be a bit more sensitive kasi alam mo naman pagdating sa sahod, people equate their value based on the amount of money that they get. Right now, sa NCR, nataasan po ng 1,300 pesos ang mga minimum wagers. Okay? So I leave it up to you on how much you're going to increase your above minimum wage people. Pag yung wage naman ng tao, 90,000 to 100,000, I'll also leave it up to you on how you perceive your employees who's asking for an increase because tinaasan ng minimum wage. Iba po ang dating 12.5 na naging yung 15 to 15,000 kasi parang 2,500. Malapit malapit. Parang you might have to be sensitive, 'di ba? Pero if your people are already earning 35, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and above, 1 million. Tapos humingi pa, boss, pwede pa hingin ng isa pang libo. You might have to also use your judgment on how you talk to these people. Okay? So sa akin, personally, pag malapit-lapit, you might want to reconsider increasing para at least yung mga tao mo hindi lumipat. Pero pag malaki, you don't have to feel threatened if you don't increase it. Kasi malaki naman talaga yung nakukuha ng tao. And wages, reminder to everyone, is not just the base pay. There is also
Correct.
incentive, bonuses, and other stuff that is very important that adds on to the total rewards package that we've been talking about before. Coach
Agree.
Darwin?
Sige, what I'll do is I'll share to you what me and my team will be doing. So what we're doing is we identify first ano yung pay ng isang empleyado. Daily rate ba siya or monthly paid
Hmm.
employees? Now, kung daily rate employee siya, yung mga daily rate ba namin, sino-sino ba 'tong mga daily rate paid employees namin? Are they minimum wage? Then if they are minimum wage, then we increase them. For the monthly paid employees, we look into what is the disparity between
Mm-mm.
our minimum wage employees and our monthly paid employees. Kasi maaari kasi magkaroon ng wage distortion, meaning mas tataas yung mga na minimum wage ngayon because of the increase kesa dun sa above minimum wage nyo na baseline nyo dati. Ul- Ulitin
Ulitin
ko,
natin.
'di
Oo,
ba?
kasi lagi nakikita natin yan. Go.
Oh, 'di ba minsan, 'di ba, meron kang minimum wage ngayon, tapos nadagdagan nga siya because of the increase. Ngayon, mas mataas na yung minimum wage mo kesa doon sa baseline mo na above minimum wage. Pag nangyari yon, nagkakaroon ng wage distortion. So what you need to do is you need to check what is the percentage of the wage distortion of your previous minimum wage sa current salary nila, and how much is the amount doon sa base mo na above minimum wage before na ngayon below minimum wage na. Doon yung pagbabasihan nyo to increase that. And the reason why you'll be increasing is you need to make sure that they would be on the minimum wage also. 'di ba? Kasi
Mm.
there's nothing that is mandating you to go above minimum wage. So either the employer would decide that okay, yung mga napag-iwanan because of the increase of the minimum wage, ipapantay ko sila doon sa minimum wage earners ko na ngayon. Or because the company would like to be competitive to attract employees, I will give premium,
Mm.
the increase, the percentage of difference dun sa in-increasean ng mga minimum wage ko ngayon. So basically what you need to do is check on your employees. Are they monthly paid, or are they daily paid? If they are daily paid, make sure that they are at least minimum wage based on the new wage increase. If they are monthly paid, i-check nyo. Baka naman mas malaki pa yung nakukuha ng minimum wage earners dahil medyo mababa yung base pay nyo na akala na before above minimum wage. Baka maiwanan sila. So make sure
Mm.
you review and you provide, as an HR professional, you provide recommendations to your employers kung ano yung percentage na magiging increase. Again, it's the company who decides on that because that's part of management prerogative. Walang
Mm.
batas na nagsasabi kung anong percentage ang i-increase ng isang manggagawa maliban na lamang doon sa tripartite board na nagtatakda ng minimum wage. Now, tama si Mentor Tina. Kung ikaw naman ay what do you call this, ang nakukuha mo ay way above minimum wage. Let's say you're earning like 30, 40, or 100,000 above, magtatanong pa ba yung mga empleyado kung ma-increase sila? Oo, magtatanong at magtatanong yan. So the best thing to do, magtatanong at magtatanong yan kasi
Ang kulit.
para sa kanila, ano, eh hindi naman pare-pareho lang naman kami magagawa, pare-pareho lang naman nag-increase ang presyo ng gasolina, ang presyo ng bigas, ang presyo ng kuryente, 'di ba? Bakit kami walang increase samantalang yung minimum wage meron, eh pare-pareho lang sila magagawa. That's where your role as an HR person on how you properly communicate the difference between the salaries of a wage earner and those who are earning above minimum wage. And if your company would have a room for an increase across the board, then why not, 'di ba? Pero sabi ko nga, baka naman hindi additional wage increase ang pwede nyo ibigay sa mga those earning above minimum wage. You can look into the non-monetary benefits of your employees.
Mm.
Why not increase their HMO coverage, or increase their group life insurance coverage, or make sure that there are additional PTOs that you can give them, 'di ba? Hindi din naman monetary yung impact na pwede niyo ibigay or idagdag para sa mga above minimum wage. But end of day, ang pinaka-importante, dapat walang bababa doon sa current minimum wage na ititatakda ng tripartite wage board. So that's it from my end.
Okay,
Meron bang mga
next.
ano, meron bang mga tanong or comments sa ating mga
We will
listeners?
address it later din. Pero nakakatawa lang kasi napaka-timely talaga tong topic natin this weekend with regard
Correct,
how to
correct.
maintain professionalism when your employees do ask, boss, may taas pa ng sahod kasi
'Di
tumaas
ba?
yung minimum wage. Very timely. But we'll go
Mm.
through the announcements naman. So, it will be answered. Next.
Yes. And our next would be, of course, that particular
Yes.
announcement from Dole. Mentor Tina, please.
All right. The Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board of NCR has already issued wage order number NCR 23 on May 13, 2022 that granted a wage increase of 33 pesos per day. So instead of 537, 570 na po tayo for workers in the non-agriculture and 533 na po sa agricultural sectors. So the adjustment is 15 days later. Okay? 15 days later. So June 1 pa po to. And the wage increase is expected to protect around 1 million I think it should be more. Minimum
More,
wage
more.
earners, more than in private
Mm-mm.
establishments in the region from undue low pay. A lot of people are complaining. Tumaas ang presyo ng basic goods. Bakit 33 pesos lang po ang inakyat? You have to mind you the 33 pesos for 26 days. That's around 1,300 pesos ang dagdag po. And ang sagot ko sa pagtataas ng wages, sa akin ha, kasi we're part of the business community. A lot of businesses understand that the wages have to increase. But we also need to understand that the increase must be balanced. Because if the increase is too much, right? For example, ang hiningi po ng tao, ng mga labor groups, I think is around 250 pesos or more.
250 to 500 actually. Yung
500.
yung mga
Let's
nag-file ng
Oo, request. Let's do
request.
simple math. Para sa inyo, 250 pesos yon, correct? But the 250 pesos is 6,500 pesos per month. Okay? But the problem with the 6,500, hindi problema pag isang tao lang. Pag isa lang employee mo, walang problema. 6,500. The business is doing well, give it to them. But the problem is, businesses are not made of one person, but 10, 20, 50, 100. So you have to multiply everything there. And if the sales do not, kasi we're just reeling off from a pandemic, hindi pa tayo, and then the economics outside the Philippines is also quite unstable given what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, what's happening in the US. Hindi pa masyadong clear ano bang nangyayari sa Philippines kasi we're just coming off from the COVID-19. If masyadong mataas ang hingi natin for businesses, businesses will automatically protect itself, and actually there might be a chance for them to, number one, to increase their prices, and number two, to dramatically decrease their headcount because they could not afford to maintain the labor force anymore. You
Or
have to
worst case
understand,
scenario, close it down, right?
close it down. Mean, mas mura magsara ng isang kumpanya than to actually pay for the workers every month, because it's not just the base pay we're looking at, but also the 13th month pay, the overtime pay, the holiday premiums, and all the
Flight
other things,
differentials.
and employer share of SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig, which we will discuss later on as well. So while a lot of people are a bit disappointed kung bakit 1,000 pesos lang, ubos na agad yan sa pamasahe, sa bigas, sa pagkain. I do think that we have to be very careful, and instead of looking at increasing just the daily wage, to also encourage more people in our family who are currently unemployed to start looking for employment, especially if they're not doing much at home. Iba po pag housewife ha. Are very difficult. But you might know a brother or a sister who is constantly looking for work pero ayaw niya masyadong maghanap ng trabaho. But the person is capable, able, and is free. Yung mahilig mag-video game. If you have people like this in your family, it might be better po if we encourage these people to find work na, kasi every person in the household that enters the workforce, that's an additional 15,000 in their wages.
The
So for
income for
example,
the
sa
family.
amin, in the family, we do have a worker who came in. 6 years na po sa amin yun. So let's assume minimum wage tong worker na to. So let's assume for simplicity's sake, 15,000 yung sahod niya. Ang ginawa ng worker, pinasok niya yung tatlo niyang kapatid. Tatlo niyang lalaking kapatid. So the family, because of this one worker that earns 15,000, the entire family is now earning at least 60,000 plus 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 plus. Because all four capable adult siblings are all working. And it's not kasi, sabihin natin, paano kunyari ma'am, pag inakyat po natin from 15,000, tinaasan na lang po natin yung sweldo niya to 20,000 to 25,000. That might be correct. But the problem is, number one, people spend less if it's their own money. People spend more if it's their brother's money. 'Di ba? Kasi hindi mo pinaghirapan, mas gagastusin mo. And number two, when everyone has work, the family is more empowered as a group. And actually, iba talaga, ang layo kasi ng 15,000 to 20,000 and 15,000 to 60,000. So I strongly encourage people to please, mataas-taas na po ngayon ang sahod. If possible talaga, if you could afford it, right? If you have an extra capable adult in your family who's not working, I hope that person would seek work, reliable work as well. Kasi by having more people in the household working, it really talaga enhances the quality of life of the family involved. Okay?
Your
So
buying
next
power
tayo.
increases, no?
Yes, ang layo kasi from 15,000, 1,000 doesn't increase, wala ka masyadong mabibili. Pero if another person gets into the workforce, they become more responsible and the family earns more as a whole, which is very important lalo na maraming adult. Given that
Mm.
NCR and Western Visayas wage poles also grant a similar minimum wage increase. So ang tinaasan naman ng provincial is 55 pesos and 110 pesos, bringing up the daily minimum wage to 450 to 420 for those employing more than 10 workers and those employing 10 or less workers. So I know a lot of people might be disappointed, but I really hope that you would understand din bakit hindi pwedeng 250. And sa akin, I always tell my people, I know it's hard. I know that the prices of goods might be going up, but it is still better kasi the head count will not be drastically, at least may trabaho pa. I'm not saying you should appreciate na may trabaho ka. I'm just saying lang na businesses do not have an excuse to retrench. Businesses do not have an excuse to retrench or redundant people because they cannot afford the labor force. Because kayang-kaya pa ng mga negosyo ang 33, pero pag 250 talaga, hindi na po natin sila matitigilan kung magsara po sila. Yun lang masasabi ko.
Agree.
Just to be fair, okay? So when will the new minimum salary wage be implemented? 15 days later. So approximately June 1 pa po. So wag tayo masyadong excited. Let's still enjoy and then everyone will adjust come June 1. Next.
Saka additional pa pala, yung mga kasambahay natin, yung mga domestic workers natin,
Mm,
yung minimum wage nila ngayon is now at 4,500. So yun na yung
okay.
bagong minimum wage ng ating mga kasambahay as per the wage order number RB V1 DWO04. Ano
Correct.
lang, reminders lang po yan para sa mga may mga kasambahay.
Okay.
Next.
Next, the Philippine Social Security System is reminding everyone na dapat kailangan kayo mag-fill up sa AKOP hanggang June 30. Last na po yun. This is required sa mga taong who is survivor pensioners, total disability pensioners, guardian ng mga dependents, and retirement pensioners na nakatira abroad because they want to make sure that the pensioners receive
Are still
money
alive.
and these people are still alive.
Alive.
Pag talagang buhay pa, please prove it. Pag patay na, pagbigyan mo na. Kasi pag kunyari wala na po yung pensioner, tapos tumatanggap pa po kayo. Ang tawag dyan pag nanakaw na. Kasi hindi naman
Correct.
talaga kayo qualified, pero kumukuha pa rin kayo. I know some people are doing it. Please don't do it because that's not very honest, ha? Okay. Coach Darwin, you're up next.
Yes. Another update from SSS would be that there are certain branches in Bacolod and also in other provinces that are open from Saturdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. These are e-centers of the following branches like Bacolod East, Bais, Bago, Dumaguete, for May, and for June, Kabangkalan, San Carlos, Sagay, and Victorias. These particular branches of SSS are again open even on a Saturday, and they're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. to ensure that more and more SSS members will be served. Also, marami nagtatanong about MP2 or yung modified pag-ibig 2. So, alam naman natin na meron tayong hulog sa ating pag-ibig. Ito yung MP1 natin. Ito yung regular savings natin. Ang MP2 naman po ay isang special saving facility with a 5-year maturity. Para po siyang bank deposit na naka-term for 5 years. At ito po ay designed for Pag-ibig Fund members who wish to save more and earn even higher dividends in addition to their regular Pag-ibig savings. Kasi alam naman, ito yung palagi namin sinasabi, kung meron po kayong extra pera at hindi nyo naman po gagamitin itong extra pera nyo in the next 1 to 5 years, mas maganda nang impok ito sa isang guaranteed saving facility in which nire-recommend po namin ang MP2 ng Pag-ibig. Bakit po namin ito ni-recommend? Kasi higher nga po yung dividends. I mean, nung last 2017, their dividends is up to 8.11%. Now, last year, for this year, if I'm not mistaken, it's 6%. And mind you, 6% is way higher than what banks are giving. Banks are only giving you 0.01% up to 0.05%. And see, your savings from Pag-ibig is guaranteed. Ibig pong sabihin, malugi na po ang gobyerno, pero sila po ay magme-make sure na maibabalik ang pera sa inyo at hindi po kayo malulugi. This is government guaranteed, and kailangan nyo lang po ng minimum 500 pesos deposit. Now, para po magbukas ng MP2, kailangan nyo lang pong pumunta sa inyong local Pag-ibig branches, or you can also check the steps on opening it online at the Pag-ibig website. So again, we are encouraging employees, people leaders to be champions of these, kasi hindi habang buhay nagtatrabaho po tayo at hindi habang buhay kumikita tayo. So mas importante po ang meron po tayong naitatabi at na magagamit natin para sa ating kinabukasan, para sa kinabukasan ng ating pamilya. Ang pag-impok po, ang pagiging wise sa ating financials or finances ay isa pong katungkulan natin bilang isang mamamayan. Hindi po natin pwedeng iasa ang ating kinabukasan sa gobyerno. Tayo po ang gagawa ng ating kinabukasan. So mag-impok na po tayo sa mga facilities tulad ng MP2 ng Pag-ibig para ma-make sure po natin na meron tayong madudukot sa oras ng kagipitan. Okay? Ina-announce po ng Philippine Health Insurance Corporation na for 2021, basis po sa kanilang financial audit, they were able to get as much as 171 billion pesos, and which actually helped close the 2021 fiscal year, for 32.8 billion net income. So last year, they were able to get 171 billion. Tapos ito po yung ginastos nila para po sa mga tao na nag-avail ng PhilHealth benefits, and out of 171 billion, nagkaroon po ng net income. May natirang pang 32.8 billion sa PhilHealth, which of course magagamit nila for 2022 para suportahan ang benepisyo nyo sa PhilHealth. Also, marami pong mangyayari sa June 1 di ba, Mentor Tina? Aside from the salary increase of minimum wage workers, inaasahan na po na by June 1, basis po ng PhilHealth Advisory Number 2022-0010, the premium contributions, which is scheduled for all direct contributors, will now take effect June 1, 2022. And ito po ay maging retroactive from the start of January 2022. Ibig po sabihin, tuloy na po ang pag-increase ng PhilHealth contributions. So, para po sa mga may monthly basic salary, sabihin natin ang monthly basic salary nyo ay 10,000 and below, or then ang inyong contribution po ay 400 pesos. Para naman po sa 10,001 to up to 79,999.99, ang inyong contribution ay maglalaro between 400 to 3,200. At para naman po sa above 80,000, ang inyong contribution monthly ay now will be at 3,200. And mind you, this is divided into employee and employer share. So, mag-itay lang po tayo ng additional announcement from PhilHealth, kasi nga po sinabi nila na retroactive dapat ang pagbabayad ng contributions na to. So, we just have to imagine if you are earning above minimum wage, and you might get anywhere from kung 3,200 a month times 6 po yan kasi January to June yung kailangan yung hulugan sa PhilHealth. Divided by 2 kasi po employer and employee share. So maglalabas po si PhilHealth ng additional information kung paano po mababayaran itong particular deficit ng contributions natin sa PhilHealth. Ito po ay naayon sa sa Universal Health Law na siya nagtakda na kailangan magkaroon ng additional premium sa PhilHealth para po matulungan lahat ng mga Pilipino na kailangan ng medical health insurance. So 4% po ang inaasahan for year 2022. Again, it will be retroactive from January 1, 2022 at ito po ay effective June 1, 2022. Okay? Abangan po natin ang additional advisories from PhilHealth kung paano po ito babayaran. Okay? And additional words from our sponsors, El Puerto Marina Beach Resort and Vacation Club is a partner of HR Cafe. If your company is looking for a team building venue or your family or barkada would like to go on a summer outing, we would like to inform you that El Puerto Marina Beach Resort and Vacation Club is a partner of the Philippines HR Group and the HR Cafe. And all members of the Philippines HR Group gets preferential rates and discounts. So you just have to message El Puerto Marina Beach Resort and Vacation Club FB page, and they have vacation clubs or hotels and resorts in Pangasinan, in Boracay, and also in Palawan. So again, please reach out to El Puerto Marina Beach Resort and Vacation Club. Next would be with MaxiCare. There are two cards that has been launched by MaxiCare. These are their Prima cards, and these are postpaid HMOs. They have the MaxiCare Prima Silver, which is an HMO, prepaid HMO for individuals up to 59 years old, and a MaxiCare Prima Gold, which is for seniors 60 years old and above. To know more about this postpaid HMO card coming from MaxiCare, you just have to log in to www.shop.maxicare.com.ph. Be protected. This HMO card can actually be given as an additional benefit to your employees or to your loved ones. Okay? Now, if you have any questions, please inaanyahan po namin kayo na mag-join sa Philippines HR Group. We have the Philippines HR Group in Facebook now at more than 268,000 members, and also sa LinkedIn, we're growing to almost 10,000 there right now. Also, we would like to encourage you to also like our FB page, the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa. Lahat po ng previous episodes, and we have more than 90 plus episodes already that is recorded, and you can go through at that FB page, HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa. You can also watch it at our YouTube channel. Just look for the Philippines HR Group. If your company would like to be sponsors of the Philippines HR Group or the HR Cafe, please send email to me, darwinrivers@yahoo.com, or please reach out to Mentors Tina, Mentors Rona, or Mentors Burns. Okay? So that's it for our first part of our show. And as promised, the second part of our show is really more of a learning from our guest speaker. And our guest speaker for today is Joseline Alosbanos. Joseline Alosbanos is a seasoned HR professional with more than 20 years of experience. And she has worked into different IT and non-IT companies. And she's actually been one of the founding members of the Philippines HR Group. And we've always been very happy to have Miss Alosbanos join us in all of our discussions, because given her expertise and given her experience, I know that she can very well contribute to our discussions for today. The topic for today's discussion is professionalism in times of crisis. Okay, so let me just um,
Welcome.
add welcome Miss Joseline Alosbanos. Hi, Jo. Good
Hi, how are you
afternoon.
guys? Good afternoon. It's raining outside, so the weather's a little bit cooler. Thank you for inviting me again for. I think this is the second time, tama?
Yes, correct.
Correct,
Second
correct.
Yeah,
time.
yeah. This is the second time that I've been invited. And I always wanted to share my knowledge and expertise in HR. I've been into a lot of industries now. Currently, I'm the HR administrator for Food by Us Australia.
All right.
Okay, Jo.
Yeah.
We'll be at
I want to
at the back.
Mm-mm.
Oh, so we're very, very happy to always have you kasi you have over 20 years of experience in a generalist
Mm-hmm.
role in almost every industry. Tapos,
Almost.
'di ba, pero you really made use of your PUP degree in industrial psychology to
Yes.
actually, like, 'di ba, change the lives of so many people.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I'm very happy to listen to what you have, so we're going to be in the backstage and offer support. See
Yes.
you soon.
Okay, bye. Okay. I'll be talking about how to strengthen your integrity or professionalism in time of crisis. My name is Joseline Alosbanos, CHRP, and this is my PowerPoint presentation. Oh, wait a minute. Sandali lang po. Mhm. I'm sorry, it's just a little bit slow right now. I don't know why. Okay. I'll be talking about how to strengthen your integrity and professionalism in the time of crisis. About myself, of course. I have 20 years experience in HR management. I am a generalist by training. I'm currently the HR administrator for Food by Us. This is an Australian BPO. We handle customer support for our mother company in Australia. To give you an idea, by Us is a BPO company. They link suppliers and restaurants, bars in securing their inventory or their pantry. I am an industrial psychology major. I'm from PUP Manila. I took up my Master of Arts in Industrial Psychology unit from the Rizal Technological University. I'm also a part-time HR consultant. I got my certified HR practitioner certification from the International Federation of Professional Managers. I am also a content blogger and creator for HR Carousel Philippines. I also have a Facebook account. And on the other side, I'm also a moderator for HR FB groups. And I'm also do moderate only in Japan Go. These are my discussion points. Number one, we have to define what is integrity. Why is it important in the workplace? What is our role in maintaining integrity? Workplace conflict and the HR. I'll be touching a little bit on conflict resolution here because integrity is important when it comes to workplace conflict and resolution. I will also give tips on maintaining integrity and professionalism during the crisis. I'll be wrapping up and summarizing the points that I'll be talking about. Okay, what is integrity? Um, For us, integrity is a moral conviction. Yung inner conviction natin to do what is right. And of course, we reject what the wrong. Regardless kung ano yung consequences attached to any decisions we make as individuals or professionals. If you are having integrity, it means that your actions should be consistent with your words. You mean you walk your talk. Also, you are trustworthy, reliable, and honest. And at the same time, you communicate honestly and openly with your people. Why is it important in the workplace, Sinasa? importante po ang integrity sa workplace natin. Because if your company is known for integrity, your people, your company perform better and it is trusted. It also foster a positive workplace culture. Ang positive workplace culture is when you have open communication, your decision making is precise or at least morally correct, and the compass guiding all decisions and action. And at the same time, nagigain ka ng trust and respect from people around you. We're talking about your own people. Uh, okay. What is HR role in maintaining integrity? As HR, we are we serve the conscience of the management. Uh, an HR practitioner serves both people and employees. So we advise management on what is going on with the company in terms of your people, and you also give them advice based on what is correct. We're talking not just of employee relations, but day-to-day activities. We balance the need for both managers and employee. We also respect treatment of employees in all aspects of employee relations, whether it is related to work, peers, and subordinates. And at the same time, we effectively handle workplace conflict po. Okay. Aside from that, we should be remaining in the middle whoever is involved. I talked about this in length in one of my blogs na an HR should be in the middle of the road or in the middle of everything. Whether we are dealing with management and people, meaning we're talking about managers and supervisors, staff, supervisor between other managers as well. So we have to maintain that level of middle of the road concept kasi para hindi tayo we tend to balance things out kasi when it comes when discussing things. We have to remain objective. Always keep your biases at bay. Tao rin naman po tayo. So there is some tendency we can be judgmental. We can be biased towards one person on the other. But you need to have it when you're dealing with people and integrity in itself. You have to maintain objectivity, meaning you need to look at the other side or the other angle aside from the one you're shooting. As HR, we have to intervene or step in early if a conflict arises, meaning pag nagkakaproblema na, before it gets worse, if you discovered it as early as possible, you have to start intervening or stepping in early before it gets worse. Typically po, yung problem or kung conflict, dumarating na po sa HR pag lumalala na po siya. So, by the time it comes to that picture, damage control na po ang mode ng HR. If not, firefighting na po tayo. Okay. As I mentioned, you need to listen to the other side of the story before making any conclusion. Your decisions that you made will be based on the information you get from other people. You listen to different angles. You listen to different sides before you make your conclusion. Why is there workplace conflict? Bakit po nagkakaroon ng internal o nagulo inside the office space? Okay. Employees by nature are complex being. Dito po papasok yung pagiging industrial psychology ko. People are people. We are complex. We are complicated per se, and each person is a different being. We need to take into consideration differences among people in terms of how you grew up. Ano po yung family values nila? Ano po yung estado ng finances nila? Are they okay? They're well off? Are they members of the masses, mayaman ba sila, may gaano kayaman, gaano kahirap. Health. Health is a big factor because we always we always take care of our parents, and whatever changes in their health status, apektado po ang mga tao. Minsan, I think Darwin mentioned it na minsan nadadala rin natin yung problema sa bahay, sa opisina. Pero one of them is yung concern mo sa health ng parents mo is one of those factors. Let's mix in stressors or constraint in the workplace. You have your personal values. You have your personal concerns. Let's mix in stressors. For example, you have deadlines. You have difficult bosses. May pasaway na katabi mo. May mga marites at marisol sa paligid mo. Constraints. We also have house rules and policies. As a person, pag medyo frustrated ka na, pissed off ka na, we sometimes do a little bit harsh things like beyond what is our own personality. But there are constraints when it comes to problems in the workplace. Hindi ka pwedeng basta-basta mag-take ng impulsive action against another employee because there are rules governing lashing out against an employee, whether physically or verbally. In short, differences may rise and conflict between employees are unavoidable. I'm going to talk about a little bit steps of conflict resolution here. How do we, as HR, resolve conflict here? As I mentioned earlier, step in early. Maaga po, pag na-discover nyo po na may gulo na and the HR has to intervene, it has to be as early as possible po. As I mentioned earlier din po, minsan dumarating na po yung problema sa HR, malala na po siya. So, HR would be stepping in not really at earliest or at latest kung kailan malala na po yung problema. You meet with everybody involved. When we say meet with everyone involved, you start talking to individuals who are involved in this issue. You get their side of the story. You also get the side of the one na involved in as well. Then, you set up a meeting for everybody to meet each other face to face. You set your ground rules. Meaning, okay, we're going to have a meeting here. We're going to discuss this problem at length. I heard your side. I heard your side. Now, we will meet here and sagutin natin yung mga allegations o mga bintang o mga concerns nating lahat. I want you to listen to that person first before you answer back. No butting in. As in, walang magsasagutan, walang sisigaw, walang sisingit. Patapusin niyo muna isa pag magsalita. Then, ako papasok. Number 4, we find a solution together. Meaning, we have to set an agreement here, right now. What would make you guys stop from arguing, for example? What would be the most logical move from this point? After this, if it's needed, you will meet again. If needed. Meaning, if you find a solution together, let them be for a while and go back to them after, let's assume, for a week or so to check on the progress. As I mentioned, check in, monitor progress. You have to make sure that if you meet again, what was the action done after that first meeting? Ano po ang nangyari? Are you okay with each other now? Is there anything we can still address at this point? Last but not least, I'm sorry, I think I made a mistake here. Escalate the problem if solution wasn't agreed upon or wasn't made. There are certain situations na hindi po Kahit nagkasundo, halimbawa lumala pa siya, or hindi kayo magkasundo-sundo talaga, you can escalate the problem to another level. I believe there are some companies have policies that if, for example, I forgot the term, but if, for example, the employee had a problem, he talked to the supervisor, and he is not happy with that solution, you go to another level. Depende po sa company kung ano po yung level of conflict resolution ninyo or grievance procedure. I believe that's the grievance procedure that I'm talking about, but it also used in conflict resolution po. So what happened is, paabot yan up to the owner or the president of the company po. The final decision lies in that particular ground. He will also meet with everybody again or look or talk to HR what happened and what was the solution and what happened afterwards. Then he will make that decision regarding the problem at hand. Final decision na po to. Once the owner or the president decides on it, everybody will follow. Next. So, how do you maintain your professionalism in the workplace as an HR practitioner? First of all, you get to know your workplace. The general work culture changes from one company to another po. Meaning, yung culture ng company po ninyo, o workplace culture, depends on how it is set up. There are companies which has formal rules or culture in place. They have mission, vision, values. You will also encounter companies na medyo homey ang dating, meaning it's an open door policy. You are open to each other. Of course, may mga limits din po yan. Take note po yon. And you determine everything from how people wear the clothes. Conventional wisdom dictates na, uy, kailangan sundan ko po yung dress code. Kung ang dress code po ay formal, therefore formal din ako. But this can also impact how you communicate with people in general. It's common to send, for example, we go to a meeting place, we talk about it. Some of them resort to email. Some of them would go as far as going to your bosses. You can go directly to my boss. You can go directly to anybody. You can talk to me. Then these are what you call rules of engagement with people in general. So you have to know your workplace. This is how it's being done. Becoming a professional, malalaman mo dapat muna unang-una lahat yung workplace rules mo. Honor your commitment. Sorry. Medyo na, sorry lang, magbaback lang po ako sandali. Okay. Honor your commitment. One of the things as an HR practitioner I always observe is honor my commitment. But there is what you call a disclaimer here. One of the things, your integrity as an HR practitioner is going to be tested here. You talk to people a lot. We talk to people a lot. As in, minsan, we would talk, for example, salaries, wages, benefits. If it is attainable, I mean, if it's valid, why not? If you can deliver, why not? But you have to take into consideration the organization as a whole. Meaning, sino yung approver mo bukod dun sa'yo? If you promise, I will give you an increase. As I mentioned, if it's not documented po, sorry, pero hindi po pwede yun. For me, I keep my commitments as realistic as possible. I don't want to give false hope po do sa tao, or else I am going to be mocked at. Meaning, baka si Joy hindi tumutupad po sa usapan yan. Ayoko ng ganon. As a professional, I don't want to commit to something that I cannot deliver. I expect people from the HR to honor what they did honor whatever word they give to the employee, because people and hold that to their hearts, and once you fail them, your integrity diminishes o malelesen to the point na hindi ka na rin irerespeto ng mga yan. Okay. Be attentive, responsive, and proactive. You attend to the needs, be attentive to everybody's needs, to everybody's concern. You need to respond to them, and you need to be responsive or proactively responsive to anything you did as an HR professional. Like I said, people hold those things to heart, and therefore you should be mindful of that. Okay? Be tactful. You need to be tactful in the workplace. If you encounter tricky situation, you have to think logically po. You cannot act based on emotion, because later on, if you forget to think before you act, or you acted before you even think about it, it has consequences. Magsisisi ka, or should I say, like I said, your credibility or your professionalism is lost here. Okay, be truthful and trustworthy. If you have an open and honest line of communication with your people, is important here. You have to tell your managers or your staff that you can really rely on anything, and you need to deliver what is expected of you. If you have a lot of excuses, sorry, pero it's gonna you have you gonna have problems with integrity later, meaning hindi ka professional, you never kept your promise, you are not reliable. Okay, next. So to wrap up, okay, these are the summaries of highlights of my discussion. Okay, in general, HR should possess personal integrity as part of its core values. I believe that HR, despite of the fact na we're on the back end or should support, we are very influential in anything we do. We also serve as an anchor of the positive culture in any organization, where we represent the culture in general. We shape culture, and we make sure that the culture is positive for everybody. Respect for people to avoid conflict with your own values, principles, and interests. Um, it was mentioned earlier that we need to respect our people. There are, like I said, human beings are complex. There are, you don't know a person, you know the person from the front, but you don't know the back, or the side story behind that person. So you need to respect them, even if it counter against or against your principles and interests and values. Pero you have to be mindful of that when you dealing with a lot of people. Open communication and proactive listening are keys. Keep your biases at bay. As I mentioned, you communicate with people openly, act proactive when you're listening to them, keep your biases at bay, meaning kalimutan nyo muna yung mga misconception nyo about people, or about the people you talk to. Of course, meron tayong instances that we know that these people is difficult, but you need to talk to them. You need to listen to them. You need to listen to their needs, their wants, and what they need to do to make them more productive. Failure to acknowledge and act will compromise your standing as an HR practitioner. And this is not, when this happens, masisira yung masisira ka kahit paano. Conflict management should be considered as a broad strategy which include policies and process. I just mentioned a tidbit of conflict management here, but if you take into consideration, there is a broad strategy which include process. You need to develop policies on how to do conflict management, systems and procedure, and you need to train your managers and supervisors to how to handle conflict management within their own group. HR, to be honest, HR is front and center on how to deal with conflict manager, but it also needs the support and of managers and supervisors to make it happen, to implement these changes. Kasi hindi naman sa lahat ng pagkakataon andun po tayo. If they can solve it within their level and just inform HR that, wait, I have problems with employee, what I was able to settle that problem, it's better. If you are an individual contributor like me, meaning ikaw lang yung nag-iisang HR and supervisors and managers are busy attending to their needs, they normally rely on an individual HR contributor like me to solve the problems in their behalf. Therefore, the step in as early as possible to resolve conflict is automatic in an individual contributor like me. If it occurs, start mediating between each employees in resolving struggles and, of course, mend the relationship. One thing I've learned about resolving problems with co-employees is that it is a struggle in itself. Meaning, may mga cases wherein I have to step in to problems na almost, how do you call it, sumabog na per se. And one of them commented that it may be true that we settled our differences, but it doesn't mean we're friendly with each other after this. And I told them, in as much as I wanted to understand you guys because of what just happened, I know I understand it's painful, but you need to work with each other. If you need to be civil with each other, I expect you people to do it. Last thing is, as a recommendation, establish values formation program that will be positive culture and environment for everybody. The role of HR in terms of employee engagement, training, and development is vital here to make sure that the positive work culture po is spread out throughout the organization. It is important for HR to do this because we are in the position to do this for everybody. It's a part of our responsibility. Okay, to leave you with a quote: while we are all struggling under the weight of the same social slash economic slash political issue, we're also looking for better, stronger leaders to help us and the organization we work for to navigate through these troubled waters. This is from Right Smart HR Talk by Randstad. Thank you very much, and yeah, I'll entertain your questions after this.
Okay. Hi, Jo. Jo, can you
Hi.
hear us? Okay.
Yeah. How was it?
Uh, good presentation with regards to the topic. Jo, I have a question here, no?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Uh wait lang, ha. Let's go to, let's see if there are certain
Let's put the slide, Jo, to your,
uh
to how people can contact you. So while we're discussing, they can screenshot it just in case they want to add you,
Oh,
either on LinkedIn or
okay.
on Facebook or,
mm-mm.
diba, for
Oh, yeah,
consultancy
yeah, yeah.
services if ever.
If you need consulting, you can reach out to me via Joyce dot sorry, hindi ko nalagay. Joyce.alosbanos@gmail.com. Right now, I do have some minor problems with LinkedIn. I'm trying to settle it with a partner of mine. Sorry, hindi ko po pwedeng i-disclose sa ngayon. I have a Facebook account. It's Joseline Alosbanos. It's a very private. I mean, it's very private. You can message me there to add me. You can. I have a Twitter handle. It's called at Joy Alosbanos, and I have a website, HR Carousel Facebook page.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Coach
Joyce,
Dar.
we have a question here from Isaiah Kiangwe, all the way from Kenya.
Hi.
According Yeah. The question here is, what if one of the persons involved refused to come to? I think this is with the mediation. Eh.
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh, what will be your recommendation if one of the
Um,
person refused to come and
oh,
meet with the persons involved separately, or can
um,
you meet the persons involved separately?
you can ano, as I mentioned earlier, meeting each other, meaning it's the last resolution to the problems at hand. You can meet them privately before the actual confront. How do you? I don't want to use confrontation. But you can still meet them privately, get their side of the story, and talk to the other side po. Then there's another meeting because one way or the other you need to meet each other and answer allegations.
Okay.
So I
I
think what you're trying to say, Joe, is there should be a meeting of minds and eventually a
Yeah, a
closure to the
closure.
problem.
Yes. I have to admit I did a bull session before. Um, the manager approached me and told me, Joy, I have a problem with the QA staff. That was with the call center I worked before. And another person came from that group and talked to me privately. Unfortunately, hindi, they're not in complete agreement, meaning there are what you call questionable statements from both ends. So I did a bull session. Normally, you don't want to do a bull session. More like a mediation meeting, rather. I called it a bull session because there were lots of misconception, false statement, and allegations that I cannot comprehend. So I had to do that.
I find that a lot of people when there's already a heated argument,
Mm.
okay, it's not the issue on hand anymore, but
Yes, it
rather the
is.
feelings that the two parties feel. Because they
Yeah.
feel that if there's a conflict, they always believe that there is a winner and a loser. Kung sino
Yes.
yung parang tumahimik, sino yung the one who gave way is always seen as the loser. And the winner
Mhm.
always feels, oh, nanalo ako. Be it
Mm-mm.
a subordinate or a boss. So
Okay.
when a person loses, it seems that the person who lost or the person with the hurt feelings seem to throw everything but the kitchen sink anymore. So the first day, nag-start siya ng orientation, what he heard the boss say, dun na-hurt na. And then 3 years
Mm-mm.
ago, this is what happened. 1 month ago, this is what happened. It's the same as arguing with your spouse. When you argue with your partner, memories come out. Even if it was years and years ago, all consolidated to strengthen an argument that you're having today. So for example, today there was an argument lang. But it's very common, especially in the Philippines, that people bring historical events into
Oh
the
yeah.
conversation, and it's usually about how I feel instead of what really happened that people saw. If
Mm-mm.
that's the
Mm-mm.
case, how do you actually keep people in the topic? Because if you start with, 10 years ago, it might not be something that can easily be settled within the day, the week, or the month because it's really hurt feelings that's no longer related to work. Personal na. How would you do it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, you like I said, you set ground rules dito in the conversation. If you're doing that, like I mentioned earlier, we will talk about his problem and then your problem. Walang singitan. No one is gonna but I mean rebut. No one is allowed to do a rebuttal that time.
Mm.
And yeah, there were like issues like, for example, if I remember that bull session, even 3 years back was opened into the open. And I was like, no, you're not supposed to do that. We're gonna concentrate on your problems, not that. Parang
Mm.
ano ba to, kasi tinaan ko is nagkapatong-patong na po. Or
Yes,
the
correct.
anger was like boiling underneath and it went kablooey. I mean, it
Yeah.
exploded in everybody's face. And
Mm.
When I did that bull session that time, told them I will not hear that word 3 years ago. Please, for the love of Christ.
I think
Mm.
what we need to be reminded whenever we're doing mediation is, yes, it's very important to have ground rules, and
Mm.
also an understanding that whatever discussions we'll be having, we should
Mm,
never disrespect anyone
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
who's
yeah,
part of that discussion. We should never
yeah, yeah, yeah.
lose respect with to each other, di ba? Kasi that's
Yeah.
anyway. If we lose respect to one another, then
Yeah.
there's no point
Coming
of
back.
having a mediation. There's no point of coming back.
Yes. Uh,
Mm.
like I said, it was a bull session. It was a risk on my part as HR to do that. Because the anger and the division was so deep. But nonetheless, I was able to pull that. But when I was interviewed and mentioned that to a consultant, he said never do that again, please. But
Mm.
Okay.
for me, yeah, it's like bull. It is bull session, literally, because everything was out of the open, including the kitchen sink. If you're gonna
Okay.
put it figuratively, yet it was like boiling in 3 years. When I came in, it exploded, meaning that argument prior to that was like major.
Well, you've put yourself in that situation, but at least you were able to take a stand and tell the people involved that we would only stick into the topic, because
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
very important. That's very important. If you are handling a mediation, always stick to the topic and always make sure that both parties are respectful. There's a
Mm.
comment from Sir June Aspacio. In
Ah,
the Philippine
oo,
legal system, a person, wait,
accused.
yeah. In the Philippine legal system, a person accused by another has a right to meet the accuser face to face. Otherwise, a lot of suspicion clouds the issue. I think this
Yes.
normally happens during an admin hearing investigation. There's an opportunity for both parties to meet. Although it's not
Yeah.
required or nor
Yeah,
mandated
yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah,
both
yeah.
parties meet. But if there is an opportunity to actually have a mediation within the admin hearing
Mhm.
session to close the issue, then why not?
Yeah. Even in as I mentioned, Darwin, administrative hearing and intervention, conflict resolution interventions, it is required. Kasi if you don't do that, like June said, a lot of suspicion, meaning they may be hiding something that where you're not aware of, and that forum is the right place to get it out.
And
Labas mo lahat.
usually kasi, 'di ba, pag yung mga issues sa Pilipinas, kasi we are supposedly a country of mariteses. So if the issue is not settled on the day, parang reality show, 'di ba? You've noticed that reality shows always talk about the same topics over and over because they
Para walang
talk about
closure eh.
the issue with everybody else except for the person involved. Gano'n tayo, eh, 'di ba? 'Pag kunyari magkukuwento kunyari may tampuhan kayo dito, kakausapin natin 'to sa
Mm.
lahat ng tao except yung taong nag-offend sa atin. And Pia
Mm.
Temporal Roa said it correctly. Sabi niya, Filipinos are not really confrontational, but rather would want it through the back channel. Marites lahat. How can as HR we prevent that? Any experience you can share? Leave it first to you before I answer too.
Um, I think sa tagal ko being HR, you do encounter people talking at your back. Passive aggressive tayo by nature, meaning we're aggressive by nature when it comes to issues and problems. Pagkatapat mo na yan, wala. Tahimik yan. And yeah, you get it through the back channel, you get it from the Marites feeds. And for me, I don't I don't want to as much as possible listen to those issues kasi when it comes from the back end, although there are some truths there. Pero kasi I let me put it in simple language. Pag katotohanan niya nahahaluan ng kasinungalingan, kalahating katotohanan, and it's molded into a what you call the absolute truth.
Mm.
Um Meaning it's a combination of half lies, half truths, and whatnots. So personally, I rather advise people to go to me and talk to me privately, and I talk to the other person as well para to clarify issues. I rather hit it from the source himself. I rather not listen to Maritas. Although yeah, it's a good source of information in a weird kind of way.
I've noticed that matatapang ang Pilipino, lalo na pagdating sa anonymity post. For example, okay, mga GCs, basta PHRG, uso ang mga GCs, which is group chats.
Oh
And
yeah.
Facebook Messenger and Viber, wherein HR and employers find out pala that the employees have many harsh feelings towards their bosses, and it gets screenshotted and shared to HR, and HR is left fixing the problems. Ang bait-bait sa harapan mo,
Ah.
pero pagdating sa GC, naku, grabe talaga mag-emo. Parang akala mo kung sino pang galit, kulang na lang saksakin ka. Pero I'm just saying lang na, 'di ba, parang when people see it, the normal reaction of an HR is to go on defense. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when an employee talks back against the company or employer, the HR feels that the employee is the one who's fighting against them. And what the
Uh,
HR sometimes forget is that wag nating masyadong personalin because these people are talking so freely because they know the HR is not watching. So, minsan lumalabas na kung ano-ano sinasabi, ano-ano kinukuwento. Kasi minsan sarap-sarap kasi magkuwento 'pag marami kang kagatong.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
one way to actually neutralize the issue is to actually just it's not really kasi a lot of people saying, "Oh, sige, NTE ko, i-IR ko, i-suspend ko, tas i-terminate ko following due process." That's the
Mm,
normal way of HRs doing it. But if you
mm-hmm.
want to put a step back and be more rational and logical, why don't the HR actually show the people involved these screenshots and ask them, this was forwarded to me. I'm not really mad, but I just want to know saan nanggagaling tong mga problema na to.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Agree.
if this is really how you feel, would it not be better for you to actually discuss it with me, who can actually make changes in the way things are run, instead of talking about it with each other, na to the point na it's not productive anymore? Kasi
Yeah, yeah,
this is supposedly work related, pero yung pagiging marites, personal time yan eh. Hindi na siya productive sa performance ng tao. It's no longer about work related if chinichismisan mo yung boss mo after work
Agree.
hours, which happens, 'di ba? And usually I find that when you actually confront people in a very nice, neutral kind way, they express surprise and backtrack na number one, sino ang nag-screenshot? Ibig sabihin may traidor sa GC nila.
mm-hmm,
Number
mm-hmm,
two, parang sa kanila, they're worried about their jobs already kasi kung ano-ano na pinagsasabi, 'di ba? It might
mm-hmm.
be good to document what happened, but to also get to the bottom of the matter and saying, look guys, what's the hatred all about?
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, everyone is working in this company. Hindi ka nakakatakot kasi pumasok na alam mo may tao kang may dal na ano yung inaano ka, parang kina-curse ka. The person
yeah,
is secretly mad at you and is ranting at you on social media. Why do you have to do that when you can just talk to each other and shout at each other face to face? Because
yeah.
that would resolve the issue. But talking
Agree.
about it in the GC would just escalate the issue. Hanggang wala nang nagtatrabaho kasi lahat ng tao nakatingin dito, nakatingin doon. Kasi kung nagkaalaman sa sabog, and lahat ng tao nag-aantay ng sabugan. Kasi
I
juicy yun, di ba?
agree.
Oh,
I have a suggestion to Pia Temporal Roa kasi she was asking how can we prevent that, and yung sinasabi kasi ni Mentor Tina is being transparent is it would actually help
Mm-hmm.
everyone to bring out the issue and be able to
Mm.
address the issue. Ako naman from my end, doon tayo sa mitigating part. And I've seen this a lot. Aminin man natin to o hindi. I've seen a lot of companies na hindi kumpleto yung code of conduct nila sa employee handbook. Kasi
Okay.
masyadong minadali yung code of conduct at
Oh.
employee handbook na wala dong provision to actually address these kinds of things. And
I
and
mean, rumor
I
mongering, yeah.
I challenge
Gossiping.
you.
Yeah.
I challenge you. A lot of companies, especially the small and medium-sized companies, there are there are no or very little provisions for them to actually identify rumor mongering, to actually identify
Mm-mm-mm.
people who are what you call this getting false pretense about a
Yes, yes,
manager
yes, yes, yes.
or about the company. So if you are able to put that in your code of conduct and your employee handbook, you're actually helping the culture of the company to be more cognizant na, oh, pag may problema pala ako, hindi ko pwede i-chismis, kailangan pala ito yung gagawin ko. Kasi pag nang chismis ako, pag nilabas ko to in public, bababalikan ako kasi nasa code of conduct namin yan. Di ba?
Uh,
So
uh,
it's really mitigating risk, making sure that you have provisions in your code of conduct that would actually address these kinds of issues. Kung wala pa, I suggest that you create one. There's
Coach
a
Darwin,
yeah.
question.
sa'yo, sa experience mo, ano nakasulat sa Code of Conduct in the best companies that you've worked for? Ah,
Ano yan eh, yung sinasabi ni ano, yung sinasabi ni Jocelyn, there are certain provisions in the code of conduct about rumor mongering.
Yes,
There's
yes.
also there's also provisions in the code of conduct about
Libel.
um uh
Close enough to libel, actually.
it's not really liable, Joe. It's really more of spreading false accusations or
Oh, yeah, yeah,
rumor
yeah.
or 'di ba? It really
Mm-mm.
depends eh. And normally the complexity the that particular violation can be anywhere between minor to major offenses. 'Di ba? But what's important is if it's there, employees are aware of it from the onset, even on new hire orientation, alam nila na, oh, pag may problema kayo, go to HR. Do not go to anyone in the organization because it's only your people manager, your direct manager, or your HR will be able to help you. No
Mm-hmm.
one else in the company. Now, if you will be doing this, then there's a particular provision in your code of conduct that will address this particular violation. Then sa simula pa lang, ini-stop mo na, 'di ba? Or
Yeah,
yun
yeah,
nga,
yeah.
I've actually had experiences. Kaya this is very controversial. Meron kami experience na, 'di ba, sa email meron tinatawag na blind copy. 'Di ba BCC?
BCC? Ah, yeah,
Oo,
BCC yun.
meron ako nahawakang meron ako nahawakang case wherein nag-email siya sa supervisor niya about yung mga issues niya about the supervisor. And the supervisor thought that this is actually very productive kasi that particular employee is opening enough to him, being able to identify which are the shortcomings of his supervisors, what are the things that needs to be improved on, what are the instances na the supervisor has been very kumaga questionable in terms of character and
mm.
decisions and whatnot. Mind you, it was BCC to every single person of the company.
So,
So,
Paano yun?
oh
ang
my
lumabas
God.
is even people who are not involved are now aware that this particular
Mm.
supervisor is someone who's very difficult, 'di ba? And
Oh,
it
yeah.
actually puts it puts a bad light to the supervisor. So there should be provisions in your code of conduct. Ano yan, papasok yan sa IT, yung mga usage of BCCs, usage of
Uh,
CCs. Kailangan kailangan nasa provision yan. Kasi kung wala, how would you address it pag nagkaroon, di ba? Pag nangyari na, di ba? Ano na lang, ang magiging reference nyo is labor code
hindi.
na. 'Di ba? Yung
Uh,
labor code nga kasi wala kayong
yeah, yeah, yeah,
supervision
yeah.
sa code of conduct eh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a particular question here from Criselda.
Teka,
Let's
before we
answer
go
it.
to that question, let me share my experience naman. I handled a labor case involving Skype conversation. Accidentally na transfer yung conversation sa isang computer. If you transfer your credentials to another computer, nakokopya kasi siya. So,
Mhm.
when the staff discovered it, dinownload niya lahat po yung information and sent it to almost everybody except HR.
Mm.
It was the most difficult investigation that I did because it was involving almost everybody in the group. Considering that these are very professionals. May mga marites moment talaga. One example is, pinipintasan yung isang employee. Ang term is, I know this is like gay, but etchoserang tadpole na magiging etchoserang frog.
Mm.
One of the samples. It was difficult kasi the girl was my friend. I have to maintain that objectivity because my reputation is on the line pag naging kumampi ko sa kanya, hindi tama yung ginawa. One of them got frustrated, nag-walk out din. Eventually, the girl resigned because unfortunately, like you said, na na na, ano lahat yung conversation doon sa isang computer and was sent to everybody. Fortunately for me, I didn't read everything because I know for a fact na there were some statements against me that time. I had to maintain my objectivity because of the investigation that I did. Meron lang feedback na hindi maganda after noon, which it's bias daw sa HR. Nagulat ako. Sabi ko, teka, bakit naging bias si HR? And I know the person who said that. And what she said was, Joy, hindi naman ikaw yung bias, kung tutusin. You were very, very objective and fair towards that investigation. It's your boss that I'm having issues at. Hindi ko na sinabi sa boss ko yun dahil nakakahiya eh. Kasi alam ko naman na yung boss ko nung time na yun wasn't really involved in the investigation. And she was pretty objective about it. Gano'n kaseryoso yung parang if you maintain your integrity, you need to maintain your integrity intact. Critical to pag if you're dealing with labor issues like this.
All right.
Let's go to
Coach
the
Darwin?
question of Griselda Velasco. Is it proper to message or call the attention of the person involved through FB Messenger? Especially, we found out something like proof that his reason for his absent contradicts to what we saw in his social media. Alam ko na to. Yung tipong sabi, may sakit
Oh.
daw. May sakit on that particular day. Let's say, boss, I will be out because I'm not feeling well. I would like to have a medical leave. Eh syempre para sa empleyado, karapatan niya ang mag-sick leave, 'di ba? Pero
Uh,
at that particular time nag-post siya having fun here in Boracay, parang ganon. Or um beach. So
Sickly.
ang ang question ni Zelda, is it proper to message or call the attention in uh, person involved through every messenger? Ako for me, don't never message the person through every messenger. What you should do
Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
screenshot that and put it as an IR, di ba? Use
Yes,
that
yes.
evidence as an incident report and have the person properly explain through the NTE what is this? Kasi pwede naman niyang i-explain yun eh. Di ba? An IR, an NTE is not yet an accusation that there's a violation made. Pero it's providing the opportunity to the person to provide his or her rebuttal on the situation.
Coach,
Nangyayari
Yes,
talaga
yes,
yan.
yes.
Coach
Yes,
Darwin, alam ko na explanation eh. Ang usual
Sige.
sobrang common yan. This is a very common excuse. Pero ang reason usually is late post. This
Late post.
late post. So actually the vacation was not done during the sick leave. It was done months before pero ngayon lang
Mm-mm.
po siya na post. Kaya mukhang
yeah.
nagbakasyon pero totoong may sakit. So
Then,
sa akin,
the
oo,
person
that's the
put it
usual
on,
excuse eh. 'Di ba? Kung matalino yung tao, which they usually are, yun talaga late post eh. Actually, hindi naman talaga totoo yan. Late upload ko lang talaga. Pero sa akin kasi, I already know the excuse, which is late post nga. Kasi talaga naman, hindi ka rin sure na nangyari talaga yon kahapon nung nag-sick leave siya. Baka talaga late post. But I think number one, you need to really be hands-on in managing your people. Kasi pag probationary pa lang, ganito na yung tao, maybe this might be a cause to not regularize because dishonesty is a bit of a problem later
Yes.
on. And I think you need to find more evidence, conclusive evidence, than just searching the Facebook post. Kung totoo talaga, kasi ang next argument niyan, di ba private wall ko yan? Anong
My wall,
ginagawa
my
ng
rules.
HR in stalking me on Facebook? So that's called deflecting the blame. So instead of talking about the sick leave, the hindi naman sick, he would instead attack HR and saying data privacy. If
Not
you
just data
already
Mm.
privacy.
that's the
It,
next that's the next. It doesn't mean it's legal, but that is the
Mhm.
next bala of reasoning. Like, you should not be stalking me on Facebook. Baka pinag-iinitan nyo ako. That's the reason why naghahanap kayo ng butas sa akin, o 'di ba?
Mhm.
So sa
Oh
akin,
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
the
yeah.
HR, you need to prepare and find out and build a case against this person lang. If you
Agree,
know this
agree.
person is dishonest in such time, if the person's a probationary, don't ano na, don't regularize kasi malaking problema
Yeah,
yan. But
yeah,
if the
yeah.
person is regular, it might be a good in ano, you have a straight face-to-face conversation with the person and say, I might feel talaga na baka I know that you were sick. But syempre, when things like this happen, people do question if you're sick or not.
Agree.
Basta sa amin,
Mhm.
bawal mag-lie. If na yon, there is no lie. I believe you are sick. But if one day I capture you lying and being very dishonest, you do know this is a terminal offense following due process, right? So the battle is not for today. The battle is for the next time that he actually repeats that. Kasi talaga,
Agree.
you want to punish the offense, not the offender. Because
Agree.
Mm-mm.
sometimes we forget, sometimes we forget in being too SOP. Ay, lagi-lagi, pag kunyari may nangyari dito, NTE, admin hearing, termination. But we sometimes get rid of people too fast. That we, dapat talaga may escalation of offenses. Hindi ibig sabihin, pag nagbakasyon na, nag-sick leave, tanggalin mo na kaagad. Kasi baka mabusan ka ng tao. Pero you want to correct the behavior. You want to correct the behavior of this
Agree.
person and you want to correct the behavior of everybody else who knows he went on vacation on his sick leave because I'm sure it's not just him who knew what happened.
Mm.
Pinagyabang niya yan sa mga friends niya. And if the company, the group of people knew that they can get away with it, they will repeat it. You will find a lot of people applying for sick leave when they're not indeed sick. 'Di ba?
Yes.
So,
Yes, yes.
prevention is better than the cure. A lot of HRs kasi we're so afraid, we're so SOP that we forgot about critical thinking. We don't
Mm-hmm.
win battles, we win wars.
Wars.
So
Agree.
sometimes, minsan, I already know what's going on but I keep quiet. I remember somebody that I got rid of for theft. Nag-Christmas party pa kami. I was praying for, sabi ko sana hindi manalo ng grand prize. Kasi
What?
nagnakaw na, mananalo ba? Kasi you cannot terminate immediately after you find out. You need to build a case if you want to successfully
Mm-hmm.
terminate a person. So I really had to investigate and actually treat that person impartially. Even, may Christmas party that I discovered in November. Nag-Christmas party pa kami. And that person pa, nanalo pa ng mga raffle prizes. Because you cannot
Mm-hmm.
react emotionally if you're HR. Kasi if
Yeah.
sinugod mo siya ng November, kulang investigation mo, hindi mo pa nabibuild yung case mo, then you're already showing subjectivity and bias. And pag na labor case ka, matatalo ka. So talagang
Oh,
kailangan ka
oh.
magtiis. You have to remain unbiased, rational, and objective. But I was really praying, sana hindi manalo ng grand prize. 'Di ba? Go, Char.
I have a joke about it eh. Sa Pilipinas lang na pag ang tao nilalagnat daw at kailangan mag-absent, pagbalik may sunburn.
Mm.
Diba, it was a standard joke in the HR community. I think I was the one who posted a lot of it na sick leave or Sick leave po ako. Ganun. Yung joke is, alam ng manager na pupunta ka sa Baguio. Anong ibibigay ko pa sa inyong regalo?
Mm.
Yeah, and I also have a staff, uh, nagsabi dun sa mga tao niya, this is for my former employer, sick leave ako bukas. Kinabukasan, lumilipad siya somewhere in Masbate through a bangka. And it was caught by the admin assistant and called by attention. Kasi, okay, so patay. Anong sinabi doon sa kabila? Ay, ma'am, nag-announce po sick leave. Okay, sige, sick leave. Memo.
Anong
May
Yeah,
memo,
nangyari
may
afterwards?
memo kinabukas. The following week, nagkaroon ng memo sa operations manager. Kinawag yung attention ko. In-screen grab yung yung post na nasa Masbate siya somewhere. Nando sa bangka at lumilip yun parang Roro yata yun or something na mabilis going to Masbate for his vacation where he used sick leave as an excuse.
Here,
Namemohan siya
oo.
after that.
Pero ano ang
So, yun.
question ko diyan is, 'di ba, parang that is dishonesty talaga.
Yes, is
Honesty.
So,
it.
it might be a good cause for HR to actually talk to the person directly because the people will not do it if they think they cannot get away with it.
And
Agree.
at the same time,
Maybe
I
there
know,
is some negligence
yeah,
there
yeah,
na ginagawa nila yan
yeah, yeah,
kasi
yeah.
ang tapang nila gumawa ng ganun
Oh, yeah,
ka-blatant,
yeah.
ipopost
I
na
have to
nila.
I have to admit that they're not happy with their operations manager that time, and at the same time, I'm a shared service HR. One thing na medyo off limits ako is how they manage their people. I'm just being
Mm.
informed ko ano nangyayari. Although the usual thing is yes, I talk to my people privately and then ano ito nakita kong pinost mo. Do you think it's proper? O bakit mo ginawa yan? I wasn't really allowed to interfere. Off limits, kumbaga na off limits ako sa mga tao, sa business unit na yon. So, what can I do lang is to advise the manager what to do. Pero mind
I
you,
have
Agree.
he
a
wasn't happy
question
about
for the
that.
two of you, okay? We've
Mm.
talked about conflict resolution and the ability of HR, is what Sir June is saying, na to have the integrity intact, to make sure
Mm-hmm.
to have the integrity intact, to make sure that the person is balanced. But there are also a lot of HR newbies who are maybe fresh graduates
Oh.
or beginner level. And for them, ang basic question, sabi nila, I've taken HR or psychology in college, but this
Mm-mm.
type of soft skill, has not been taught to me. And you
Oh
guys
yeah.
have been dealing with this for how many years and decades. Having knowing what you know now, what can you advise the people who are new in HR na tinapon lang sa tubig, na never talaga wala silang ganitong skill. Yung pamilya nila, hindi na nga nila ma-mediate eh. Yung tao pa nila sa HR. Kasi nakakatakot. It's really scary,
Oh.
right? Like
Yeah, yeah, totoo,
if
totoo.
you haven't gone through the experience before, you don't know where to start. And pag nag-aaway, nagsisigawan lahat ng tao diyan. Parang ikaw, mas maganda tatahimik ka na lang. But that's not gonna be helpful. So, given that
Mm-mm.
you guys are experienced, how would you advise to mga newbies on how to develop such soft skill? Kasi wala naman tayong course na talagang nagtuturo kung paano mag-mediate in a way na practical.
Ako,
Di ba?
let
Okay.
me
Yeah.
let me start.
Yeah, yeah, sure,
I
sure,
think
sure.
I would
Ikaw muna.
I would address muna not the fresh graduates or the people who are new in HR, but the HR leaders or management. You have a new hire onboarding for new employees. What you need to do is have a separate onboarding for new team members in HR. And this is very important. Reason,
Mm.
the new hire onboarding for HR people or people leaders, importante yan for them to make sure that they know the policies and processes by heart. Second
Mm-mm.
is they need to make sure what are expected of them in terms of yung mga soft skills na kailangan nila. Kasi hindi naman tinuturo yan sa school. Hindi
Mm.
naman yan basta nila mabasa. It's
Mm.
way HR leaders, supervisors, managers should be able to mentor new fresh graduate HRs kasi mahirap yung sink and swim. Kaya nga tayo nagkaroon ng Philippine HR group eh. Kasi
Ah,
ayun yung pinanggalingan namin. When we were
Yeah.
still starting in HR, we were really sink and swim. But right now, we're trying to develop a culture wherein HR leaders should be able to have a proper onboarding process for people leaders and also HR professionals to make them understand what is expected of them and provide them with the right skill set that they need for them to be successful. Kasi hindi mo naman kasi tama si Tina, how would you expect someone in HR to handle employee and labor relations, to handle mediation, kung sarili nga niyang conflict, personal conflict, hindi niya ma-address. So you have to
uh,
equip the person with the proper skill set and knowledge on how to handle mediation and how to handle admin hearing. Now, for the new hires or for the fresh graduates, three things. Watch and learn from your leaders. There's what we call mirroring. Mirror how your leaders do and act. Kasi we normally learn more if we are observant to how our leaders think, talk, and act. That's very important. Alam mo, mas marami kang matututunan sa leaders mo. Ganito pala dapat pang leader. Ganito dapat magsalita, ganito dapat kumilos, ganito dapat mag-isip. I remember when I was a supervisor, ang lagi kong iniisip whenever I have a challenging question, paano kaya ang gagawin ng boss ko pag siya yung nandun sa sitwasyon na yon? That's my compass. I will think of how will my manager act or decide if my manager is on that situation. And I will have a lot of scenarios running in my mind, and I will choose the best scenarios to implement or to provide guidance to. So, mirror your bosses. Second is,
mm.
please lang, wag po tayong maging tamad. Meron na po tayong internet. Yung panahon po namin, mahirap pong mag-internet. Kailangan pong pumunta sa library, sa public library, para lang
Ah,
magbasa, para lang matuto. Ngayon, everything is on the touch of your fingertips. So, please
YouTube.
make sure, yeah, YouTube. Please make sure to get additional information, knowledge, and skills as much as you can. And make sure that these knowledge and skills are really adding value to you as a person. Hindi yung
Mm.
sasayangin mo yung oras mo
honey.
sa panonood ng mga non-essential TikTok, non-essential YouTube, di ba?
Netflix.
Yeah, yeah,
Oo.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You have to invest time to actually invest time in your own learning. And then number three would be, aside from mirroring, aside from making sure that you invest time in yourself and getting additional information. Yung third is really understand the company's business and the company's policies and process. Kasi minsan, ang problem sa atin is, pag tinanong tayo, hindi natin alam. Kasi hindi natin, maski tayo, hindi tayo nagkaroon ng kusang loob na alamin kung ano ba talaga yung problema.
Mm.
Kumbaga,
Mm.
if there is, kasi yung sinasabi nga kanina ni Joe, bakit ganon? Dumarating lang sa HR yung problema pag malaki na. Pag
Or
nangyayari yung
sumasabog.
sumasabog na. And I'll tell you this honestly, HR people. Pag nangyayari yan, ibig sabihin, you have you
As
failed from
low.
being as an HR.
Mm.
You failed. You know why? Because an HR business partner, kilala mo dapat lahat ng empleyado, lahat ng leaders, alam mo kung saan magsi-start yung problema. Nagsa-start pala yung problema, nakikita mo na, binibigyan mo na kagad ng resolution. Kung ang
Mm.
problema dumarating sa HR nung malaki na, ibig sabihin hindi mo siya nakita, ibig sabihin you failed to actually um, mitigate the issue and mitigate the risk in the onset. So that's it for me.
Iniiwasan kasi, 'di ba? Ayaw natin ng conflict. We prefer to do busy work than to actually settle labor relations kasi madugo ang labor relations, and
Oh,
feeling
oo.
natin if we don't handle it well, we will be blamed. Sasabog sa mukha natin, hindi na nga tayo kasama, sila na nga namomroblema. Pero kasi hindi maganda yung ayos mo sa kanila, babalik at babalik na tayo yung magiging masama and tayo yung mabe-blame for what
Mm-mm.
happened because we didn't handle it professionally and well. May sinabi nga dito si Sir June, 'di ba? EEs won't open up if they don't believe the HR and the integrity and his integrity is questionable. HR plays a critical role in this area.
Yes.
Maricel Bernardo also Aragon says, through Sir June, it is difficult to trust HR when their credibility and integrity is broken, especially when the employees have proven that their HR is not trustworthy anymore. And with that, I
Yes.
want to ask you guys, if
Mm-mm.
this is the case and you've encountered this, what can the HR do to mitigate this problem? Do you ibig sabihin ba
Um,
'pag gano'n, 'pag hindi na trust kunyari may isang nanggulo and nag-complain nga yung mga employees, sabi
mm-mm.
niya hindi na raw trustworthy yung HR, is it inevitable ba na kailangan mag-resign yung HR na yun? Parang kawawa naman kasi hindi naman
Um,
siya yung nakasawsaw lang, mali yung nagawa, siguro because hindi pa siya gano'n ka-mature, hindi nag-guide or
yeah,
natapon lang
yeah,
siya
yeah,
sa
yeah, yeah,
tubig.
yeah.
Like, as a senior HR leader, what can we do to make it better?
For me, resignation is not the end all solution to address it. Experience taught me ito ito totoo to. In my experience in HR, I've encountered it. When I come into an organization wherein there is no HR, kung may HR man, ewan natin kung ano nangyari sa HR na yon. Or should I say, namana mo
Problema.
yung
Mm.
problema, o yung sins nung previous na HR. And breaking that misconception is already a challenge on its own. Um, when you say HR is not trustworthy anymore, when you say that, saan ba nagsimula yung problema? Was the HR, the previous HR or the current sitting HR address concerns properly? If not, as Darwin mentioned, HR failed as far as we're concerned. We are in general agreement with that. Pero ano po yung naging rason bakit nasira? And for HR to at least redeem itself, she has to take a proactive, if not upfront campaign, I should say it campaign, to prove that the misconception against her or him is wrong. Um, there are what you call, you can do it unti-unti to build your credibility overnight. It may not be easy, pero it is doable. Pag hindi na talaga maano, yes, the final thing is resignation. Pero the problem with this is there are unresolved issues on that HR na unfortunately, ipapasa dun sa bagong HR. And that is painful mismo. I experienced it firsthand, and to tell you the truth, it wasn't okay for me. I stood my ground. To give you an idea, I helped this employee of mine to settle her SSS problems kasi hindi nahulugan. And then yung supervisor lumapit siya. And then, anong ginagawa mo sa staff ko? Ako, aha? Eh, tinutulungan ko yung staff mo to settle her problem with the SSS. Sabi niya, eh, ginugulo mo yung staff ko eh. Sabi ko, hindi. Siya nga, kung tutusin yung gumugulo sa akin eh.
Mm.
Mind you, it was payroll season and I'm not supposed to be talking to your staff. Ganon. I mean, kasi kayo mga HR, mga salbahe kayo, I mean, everything was thrown in at my face that time and I was stunned. Sabi ko, wait. Why are you blaming me for something your previous HR did? Hindi ko ako yung bagong HR dito. Minana ko yung kasalanan ng previous na HR. And yeah, she was stunned at my statement because, like I said, resignation is not the end of all the solutions to the problem when your credibility is at stake or nasira na. It has to be addressed before the new person comes into the picture. Or else, mamamana niya yung problema nung previous na HR, and she would have to do a lot of correcting in terms of the misconception of the HR representative in the workplace.
Sa akin kasi, ito lang tanong ko we're talking about integrity and credibility, and it's easy for employees to blame the big bad HR department for
Oh
all the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
problems
yeah.
inside the company. But I think a better question might be, how is your integrity and credibility as an
Mm-mm,
HR manager? Like for example, 'di ba? Kunyari, Coach Darwin pumasok sa company, there
mm-mm,
should be a reputation already on how Coach Darwin worked in his previous companies. Kasi
mm-mm,
kung trustworthy naman siya, very honest, very objective, paglipat naman niya sa ibang company, he brings that characteristic with him. So
mm-mm,
sometimes the credibility and integrity is being questioned because you might be exhibiting behaviors that people don't trust. How about that?
yeah,
Parang
Agree,
not
agree.
naman as particular sense, where I think like HR managers should not worry too much about the department, but rather more on how they could build their credibility inside their workplace. Not yung katabi nila, not yung boss nila, not yung subordinate nila, pero sila kasi if your subordinate's not being a good balanced HR, you can correct that. If your boss is
mm-mm,
not being a good and balanced HR, you can still remain credible and with integrity that people can trust. So I
mm-mm,
think it's
mm-mm.
very easy for people to just say na parang nawalan ng credibility yung HR, so ganun na talaga. But if there is at least one HR manager, which is you or the people who are watching, who people recognize to be truthful, honest, unbiased, fair, balanced, it really makes a difference in how they handle labor relation. Kasi may mga magic people tayo na pag tinapon natin sa labor problem, nawawala. Later, pag pinasok mo sa kwarto, umiiba yung energy. Parang, ay, salamat, nandito na yung taong makikinig sa lahat and will get to the bottom of the problem. May mga tao naman pag pinasok mo sa kwarto, grabe sasabog talaga yan. Mahaba pa yung problema because of the reputation of the person to be very biased. So my question
Yes,
to you,
yes.
Sir Coach Darwin and Ma'am Jocelyn, is how do you be that person? And what
Ako
are the
ano,
skills you need to have to be that person?
Ako for me, the rules and regulations, the code of conduct of the company applies to everyone. No one should be special or be given any special treatment. The reason why the credibility of some HR folks are
Mm.
being questioned is because may mali si HR, hindi nabibigyan ng NTE, hindi nabibigyan ng
Ah,
Oh
ng
yeah, yeah,
hindi
yeah,
hindi
yeah, yeah,
nabibigyan ng
yeah.
suspension. As a
Oh
people
yeah, yeah.
leader, as an HR manager, what you need to understand is kung paano nyo dapat minamanage yung ibang department in terms of risk mitigation, dapat doble pa yung ginagawa nyo for your team, for your HR team. If your team member
Mm-mm.
is at fault, then make sure that that particular fault, aside from mentoring and coaching, should be given the proper sanction. Because if you're sanctioning someone from other department, you should also be sanctioning your own people
mm,
for
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
having the same violation. So what I'm
mm,
Yes,
trying to
yes.
say is always be fair. Never be biased. There's no your position in HR is not a position of power. It's a position of responsibility. It's a position of trust. If you are biased, if you tend to protect your team, and if you
mm.
tend to what do you call this, make your team feel special, that they are not that they will not be
Invincible,
liable,
'di.
or
They feel
they will not be
invincible.
liable and invincible sa mga NTEs, then the perception of people in other departments will be very negative for HR. So make sure
Oh, okay.
you play fair.
Fair,
Uh,
Jocelyn?
yeah. Mentioning fairness, you have to make them realize that you're also subjected to the rules and regulation. Number one. I even gave myself a memo for not punching out during lunch break. And I was already questioned pa lang sa attendant. They know that they cannot question me when it comes to attendant. When I made that made mistake before, talagang binigyan ko sarili ko ng memo. Nagulat nga yung boss ko. O Joy, ba't binigyan mo sarili mo ng memo? I forgot to punch out during lunch break. Ganun kasimple yun. And the word spread out when I did that. Number two, you keep yourself open to anybody. Meaning, even, kunwari kahit open table arrangement yan or you have your own room, please make them aware that you are open to talk about anything under the sun, anytime, anywhere. That is how you are open. Um, Admittedly, tao tayo. We also make our mistakes, but we have, in a way, we need to be careful of how we act or how we behave in the workplace. Kung halimbawang ikaw yung unang source ng gulo, sira ka. Or at least merong violation at ikaw yung front and center nun. You have to deal with the consequence. Pag hindi, you don't, if HR is not sanctioned here, wala, sira ka na.
Mm.
And unfortunately, like I said, napapasa kasi yan dun sa kabila eh. Sa kabilang HR o sa anybody who enters the company, and that the credibility of the department itself is in compromise. Like I said in my previous my friend said bias si HR. And then she said, hindi naman ikaw yung bias, yung boss mo yung bias. That's their perception. You
Mm.
cannot just get rid of it overnight. It's just proving them that you are a person of trust. You can be relied upon. Your integrity may be compromised, but not totally, still intact. You need to make yourself as clean as clear water, for example. Pero like I said, we are also human. We are also subjected to mistakes and also covered under the code of discipline or conduct.
For me kasi parang character and principles must be stable eh. That's who you are, that's your personal brand, and regardless of whichever company you're in, you bring that with you eh. So I think a lot of people must first self-reflect because napansin ko ha, pag may problema with the HR, nagrereklamo sila sa HR, the HR managers always blame somebody else, like their
Oh no
boss
no.
or like the situation. Parang I think sa akin, you really have to improve the way you handle people. Kasi totoo talaga, like especially when I first started, ayoko talaga makisawsaw kasi pag sumama ka doon, nakakatakot talaga mag-handle ng tao, lalo na pag galit yung dalawang party. But if you don't come in and you don't learn how to handle it, later on, paulit-ulit yung ganong klaseng problema, hindi ka
Mm-mm.
mag-grow. It's something talaga that you must tackle head on. And hindi ka masyadong matakot and marunong ka talagang makinig on both sides. Kasi totoo lang, when we come in and we listen, totoo lang ha, we also in our head already says, hindi totoo yan. Hindi to, yung parang may bias ka na, ito ba to? Mukha naman kasi siyang ano eh, grabe, napaka-OA.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
when you listen already, there's already a bias. And then sa atin, parang we also, parang if we side with the person, because siguro that person is our friend, if you really want to be very objective on how we listen, talaga naman that we actually give more chances to people that we like and we're more hot tempered to people that we don't like. And I think this must be a behavior that we need to keep ourselves in check. Kasi if
Yes.
people tell us, feeling ko biased ka. Sa atin kasi hindi. Hindi tayo biased. Pero, people will not say that pag wala naman talagang cause for them to say. If you are
Like,
completely balanced and fair,
yeah.
there there won't be, people will not repeat it over and over. Pag kunyari itong tao na to alam mo biased ka. Alam mo masyado kang pro management. Alam mo chances are it's true. And it's just us denying the what people's feedback to ours. And I think it's something that we need to listen din. Kasi baka talaga, sabi ko nga eh sa mga HR ko, sabi ko, you know what your biases are showing?
Yeah.
Obvious. Ma'am, hindi totoo yan. Obvious. Obvious talaga. Okay? So, the fact that you are denying that your biases are showing is the reason why people don't trust us. Because bias ka na, dinideny mo pa, you're not even taking accountability for your biases. Instead of taking a step back and saying, maybe it's true. I am being too biased and too emotional about this conflict that I'm already taking sides without
Yeah.
knowing it. Diba? Kasi there
Agree.
might be a possibility nga. But ano, Coach Darwin, you mentioned a while ago about skill sets. What is the skill set that HRs need to do to be professional? I know it's a bit ironic, but there is some skills that you can summarize that people should develop to be able to handle this better.
I think in terms of skill set, is it skill set or more really of the core values of the
Okay,
people?
core
They they they
values.
they,
Mhm.
they have to go back to the to what we're trying to say na ano, if being professional is being true to your word, 'di ba? If you say
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
that's a good
something, then
one.
do it, 'di ba? If you say something, people will expect it from you, and you have to make sure that you are true to your
Mm.
word and you deliver on what you promise. Never under deliver, as much as possible over deliver of the things that you promised, of the things that you committed, because as a professional, your words is your commitment, right?
Mm-mm.
And again, also, your actions is a reflection of who you are. If you're trying to say that, oh, galit ka sa mga tardy, galit ka sa mga pada-absent, galit ka sa mga ano, pero ikaw, kung pumapasok ka, manager ka, pumapasok ka, lunchtime na. 'Di ba?
Ah!
'Di ba? Naku,
Ah!
napakarami akong kilalang ganyan. Yung tipong I'll ano, without I mean
Naming
at this
names.
times at this times where IATF is saying that 100% kailangan nasa office tayo. I've known people where they're supposed to be in the office, but because they are on a higher position, they would like to use their
Power and authority?
position, their power and authority
Mm-mm.
to still work at home. But how would you expect your agents? How would you expect people from production, 'di ba? To sweat and tire in the office, to do things in the office if they don't see you there, 'di ba? How will people follow you if you cannot even show that into your actions, 'di ba?
Mm.
So always be a model of the things that you expect from people. If you expect people to be honest, then be a model of honesty and integrity. If you expect people to be hardworking, then be a model of being hardworking. 'Di ba? Don't expect people to do things that you yourself are not prepared to do. 'Di ba?
Yeah.
That's simple as that.
Mm-mm.
Don't be a hypocrite.
Don't be
Oh,
a
what's
Like
a
I
hypocrite.
said,
hypocrite, diba? Don't be a
like I said,
hypocrite.
keep your biases at bay. Meaning, yes, totoo na we have our biases. When you hear people, may tendency tayo to side on the other. Like I mentioned earlier, keep your biases at bay until you hear everything. And then you are in that position to make a very informed choice to either sanction or any people, because you already heard everybody's side.
Mm.
And aminin natin o hindi, even if we make the proper decision, people will still think of you as not being fair. And that is the price of being fair, unfortunately, for me. Yeah, I've already encountered a lot of making decisions like terminating people, sanctioning them for tardiness, sanctioning them for behaving badly. And you would hear feedback na, Uy, bakit mo pinirmahan to? You're not supposed to sign that. And me, it's like, oh, okay, so what's the right thing to do? I did my judgment call properly because I heard everybody. And a sanction is a sanction. Even I am not exempted from the sanction if I did something wrong. And that keeping yourself accountable to the code of conduct and to the company in general makes you a credible person. Meaning, kahit may kasalanan ka, you're not exempted from this. You're just everybody else. You're working from the company at the end of the day, and you're part of that organization. Giving the pass to HR is how do you call it? Is not right. Meaning, pag may ginawa ka kasalanan, pangatawanan mo to. You did it eh.
Mm.
Uh, for me, it's important that um, we should be held accountable to any single item we have on the table. Commitment is, like I said, if you are committing to certain individual, make sure that it is within your jurisdiction and within safe bounds provided by the company and the management. If you overpromise, yes, magagalit sa employee. They will hold you accountable. At the same time, your integrity and professionalism, it puts into question pag hindi mo tinupad ang usapan natin. And take note, some of them are not well documented. So normally, I really say, where is the document? If you don't have a document, therefore, it is not valid. I always put that into the picture pag may pinangako ka.
We're already at 5:30 and
Yes.
then
Oh, oh yeah.
napakahaba ng at pero napakasarap ang ating kwentuhan kasi talaga regardless of which industry you're from or which country you're in or which company you're actually in, being professional is very important. Conflicts exist in all levels, in all
Yes.
industries, and in all times. So given this, we'll start with our last words. I'll do it first, then Ma'am Joy, then after that, Coach Darwin will end our show
Mm-hmm.
with his last words. Sa akin, nakinig ako sa presentation ni Ma'am Joy, Ma'am Jocelyn. First thing, if you really want to be professional and there is a conflict in your workplace, number one, settle the issue early. A big part of why problems balloon is because a lot of HR managers choose to ignore the issues when they're still small. Ay, wala yan. Maliit ng issue lang yan. Ano, Facebook lang naman yan. Let's not talk to this person anymore. Up to a point that it gathers fire. Para siyang apoy. Pag kunyari nasunog na tong part na to, kumalat na dito, up to a point na yung apoy, hindi mo na talaga siya ma-put out because it's too big already and it's a lot of people are involved. As what Ma'am Joy has said, na BCC ang buong kumpanya kahit hindi na related. Pag gano'n, napakahirap talagang ayusin. So for me as an HR, usually pag merong parang konting sniff, konting marites na may problema, uunahan ko na. Kakausapin ko na in a nice way and say, Mare, narinig ko to. Totoo po ba? Obviously, sasabihin niya, ma'am, hindi totoo. Sasabihin ko, kaya nga, alam ko namang hindi totoo, pero uunahan ko na. Hindi maganda kasi yung nangyayaring ganyan. Pag naging totoo talaga yan, kung totoo man, if ever, pakitigil na habang maaga pa.
Yeah.
Kung may problema, lapitan mo na ako. Pwede mo namang unahan eh. Kasi when you're just talking to individual involved, it's a small problem that can be settled. But when the problem already escalates and so many people know about it, it's no longer about the topic involved, but because of that person's face and pride. Kasi nahuli na siya sa kanyang kwento, hindi na niya pwedeng bawiin yun at kailangan siyang magpalit at magpalaki at mag-support, add supporting document, maghanap ng kakampi doon sa problema na yon. Ang hirap na i-contain yung problem because it's no longer about you and the other, but everyone else involved and that person's reputation who they want to protect. The second part is you have to listen to all sides. I think listening is a skill that should be developed by all HR and not just listening. You need to be able to dissect what you're listening in is real or not real. Kasi may ibang tao, parang kinig na kinig, ay, totoo ba yan? Pero tayo sa HR, dapat meron tayong utak to determine kung totoo talaga yung sinasabi ng tao at kung totoo, kunyari, if a person's really sick, there should be evidence that that person is sick. If the person cannot provide any hospital bill, reseta, medical certificate, that is a problem. So the system must protect us na para we don't have these issues going on. Listen very carefully
Yes,
to both
honey.
sides and be fair. Stick to the topic. And number four, don't take sides. Pick what is right, fair, balanced, and true to your conscience. Kasi a lot of people kasi, ma'am, sinong kakampi mo? Sino bang tama dito? Ako ba tama? Siya ba tama? Eh bakit kailangan tayo mangampi? Bakit hindi na lang tayo mag-stick kung saan nakasulat sa Code of Conduct natin and kung saan lahat ng tao makaka-agree, ito talaga yung tama. Kasi there
Mm-hmm.
is a right way of doing things, you know? And for me, when you are conflict resolutioning, you have to be very careful that you make sure that you make decisions that is okay for everyone involved. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
after the event has happened, after the conflict is done, people will go back to that story and they will judge you based on how you settle the problem. If they think the HR slash the company was too unfair, it is a signal for the employees to move on to another company that's better. If they agree that what the HR and the company did was fair and balanced, oo, tama talaga, natanggal yung tao na to kasi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are all the evidences, it will reinforce their decision to remain loyal to the company. Because not every company is balanced and fair. And a lot of employees value a company that always chooses to do the right thing. And okay lang sa tao na magtanggal ng fellow employee. Kahit nakabarkada niya yun, okay lang. Basta, their perception is the HR did investigate, there is supporting document, and totoo talaga may nangyaring mali doon sa employee na yon. But if you hasten the investigation to the point na gusto mo lang tanggalin, you will be judged by everybody else who remained in the
Kaya
company
kami mo.
later on.
Hi.
So HR has to be very careful, not just in settling the issue today, but also in making sure that whatever we do builds our credibility over time. That the stories that we tell in the future will support our values of integrity, honesty, and professionalism. All right? Ma'am Joy, your last words.
I think what Dina said is true. HR is the pillar of integrity in our organization, and especially nagiging more apparent to when you are settling issues and conflicts. This is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of uh, what professionalism and integrity has HR has to be. I've been fortunate enough to answer the question earlier because I wasn't able to answer how did I learn that skill. I was fortunate enough that I was mentored by two law degree majors. They were not lawyers, but the procedures in terms of investigation and doing memos in the past uh, galvanized my skill in labor relations. I was also sink and swim HR that time. Wala pang internet. Yeah, ganun ako katanda. Um, I was taught to observe. I was taught to document everything. Even small matters are taken into consideration when you do back conflict, if not termination procedures. At the end of the day, we are influential. Admittedly, even though HR is viewed as a cost center, influential tayo in any single aspect of employment here in the Philippines, especially when you're dealing with BPOs na wala yang alam. Your integrity as an HR does not lie alone on how you handle people. It also involves in giving advice for people, foreign nationals, foreign companies when you are advising them of items that can be addressed in the Philippines. Medyo we're a special breed of HR here because we're mindful of our laws here. Um, at the end of the day, HR is credible or professional or the integrity is intact as long as he deals with people correctly and value everything in those aspect. My advice to future HR who would be who would be in the situation like me na unique, sink in, absorb everything and apply it to your daily dealings with employee. If you get that credibility in place and that integrity in place, you would be trusted 100% and more than you can count. Meaning, if you leave an organization, you meet somebody in the street and say, ikaw ba si Ma'am Joy, yung dati naming HR? And yes, I am your previous HR. Sabi, Ma'am, ikaw yung mabait, ikaw yung tumutulong sa amin. It goes beyond your normal work. The appreciation goes beyond that. And I'm proud of the fact that I met former employees and they're happy with what I did. That is how you retain your professionalism and integrity in this profession, and it is in ways psychologically rewarding. That's it.
Okay. Siguro from my last words would be really, I would just like to highlight what Sir June Aspacio has mentioned in the chat. According to Sir June, skill set that each HR professional should have. You need to be human but humble. If you did a mistake, admit it and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you are liable for any violations that you did from the organization. And if your team member, as I mentioned earlier, if your team member has done a violation, make sure that whatever is due to that person, then give that person the proper sanction. Be part of the workplace. That's what most HRs right now is lacking. Again,
Mm-mm.
for me, the best HR are HR business partners because they are 100% aware of not only the business but also they have full understanding of who are the leaders and the team members under these leaders. If they're able to identify problems when the problems are still small and growing and are able to mitigate any risk, then you are a very good HR. You do not gauge your your credibility as an HR or how good you are when you handle big problems. Ako, my gauge of a successful HR is being able to handle small issues and mitigate risk for the company. Kasi if big
Mm-hmm.
problems na yan, minsan wala ka ng control dyan eh. Pero pag maliliit na issues at nagagawan mo, na-resolve mo, then it means that you're able to really help the organization and help the employees. And don't be afraid to show what you're capable of. Um, HRs are people either they're introvert or extrovert, but our job requires us to be extroverts. We need to make sure that we are
Mm-hmm.
always, I know, we're always talking to people. We're always in touch with our employees' needs, and we're always in touch with the best practices of the industry of the community. So make sure
Yes.
that
Yes.
they know part of building your reputation is by showing to these people that you know, you understand, you are very credible on what you say and do. Kasi if silent ka lang at hindi mo pinapakita o sinasabi sa kanila yung nalalaman mo, yung mga pwede mong gawin or mga resolutions na naiisip mo, then they will perceive you as very weak. So make sure that if you know something, you tell them. If you don't know something, then you admit it and get the proper resource to help your stakeholders. Sabi nga ni Sir June, walk your talk. Make sure that you reflect whatever you say, whatever you think, and of course, your words and your actions reflects who you are as a professional. So again, let me just end this program. Maraming salamat po. It's another value-adding session for today. We're now episode 91. Next week, we're episode 92. We look forward to having you again. HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa. Maraming salamat po. At for all the team replays, please make sure to share our recordings to all your network. Bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.